Listen, sales is probably the highest paid profession out there. But here's the thing, only about less than 10% of people actually succeed in sales. Now, I want you to go ahead and keep watching this video, and I'm going to cover the reason why you're struggling in sales, what you can do right now to go ahead and fix that problem. And I'm also going to go ahead and cover how you can go ahead and increase your income as a sales rep. Okay. So now in this training, we're going to cover the reason you're not selling. Like I said, we're going to cover the mindset to have in the sales process. We're going to cover the number one fear the sales reps have in the presentation. We're going to cover the habits and environment you need if you want to succeed in sales. Okay. So let's go ahead and begin. For this, let me move myself. Actually, this is fine. Perfect. Let's begin. All right. The reason you're not selling. Now, majority of people, okay, and I'm going to be very broad in this, and I want you to think about this for you right now, is ask yourself this one question, right? How and what was the reason why I bought this product from person B, right? Because we've all been sold to. We have all purchased some product. You bought your car, you bought your house, you bought your kids' clothes, you paid for something, right? Why did you buy? What was so unique? What was the reason you bought? Okay, what was that thing that person said that made you go, oh, you know what? Actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and get it. You see, here's the thing is most people try to reinvent the process of sales, not really understanding that sales has been something that's been around for millennials, all right? People have been selling to each other for thousands of years. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to pretty much look at the processes of other people that have pretty much been here before you. A few things that people are not doing, all right, that I'm finding out are the key reasons why they're not selling is, one, not paying attention to the customer, right? In the sense as to you're not asking the right questions. If I came to you and I said, you know what, I wanted to buy insurance, right? What do most people do? They start telling me about, you know what, this policy does this. I get cash back. You get cash back. We get this money back. You get this. It's the cheapest policy. It'll be there for 10 years. Your kids get this. Dude, I don't care about that, right? You see, we have a software company, right? We probably have 400 features on that in the software. But people only buy one thing. Like, it can be like, people are going to be like, oh, I bought the email marketing side, or I bought the AI assistant side, or I bought the ads launcher, or I bought the fact that I get a personal assistant. These are specific features that are sold, but people only buy one. They only buy one. There's bulk, but they're like, oh, I only need it for one, two, right? Now, I want you to understand something. This is when you are selling to your customer, you have to understand, you need to ask them the most important question as far as, hey, what brought you in here today? What is the reason we're talking? Why? You got to ask them the question to understand what is your motivator. You have to understand the pain is the pitch. Remember, this was in a book as Alex Hormozy, The $100 Million Offers. I'm pointing as though you're here, but you're not here to really see it. That's so funny. The $100 million offers talk about the pain is the pitch, right? People who do not have pain do not buy. Just imagine this. If you're not sick, why are you going to the hospital? Okay. If you're not cold, why are you turning on the heater? Right? Why get your room warm? People only move when they're uncomfortable, right? And people cannot be sold unless they feel uncomfortable. And the reason you're not selling is you're not really understanding the prospects, understand your pain, understand what's uncomfortable about them right now. Let's say I'm going to sell insurance to you, right? And I wanted to sell insurance to you, and I'm like, hey, I'm sitting here with you. There's a husband, there's a wife. And I'm like, hey, okay, good. So what's the reason why we're here today? You see, you're so afraid to ask the tough questions. That's the reason why you don't sell. You are afraid to ask the tough questions. It's not really sales training. Listen, I highly recommend this. Go get sales training. I'm daily. I take the Grant Cardone University. It's something I've been doing for the past 3 years. And I've always been in the uplifting my skills. Even though I can sell, I'm like, you never know that one word that you might need to say at some point that's going to, move the prospect or get them to say yes, right? But you are so afraid to ask the tough questions. Be honest with yourself. Because if you weren't afraid to make people uncomfortable, then you would be selling right now. You're afraid to make people uncomfortable. That's the reason why you're not selling. It's not really that, oh, you don't know the right tonalities, or I'm not good at overcoming objections. If I knew my script, if I studied this, if I did this, nah, it's just you're a chicken. You're too chicken. You're just afraid to make people feel uncomfortable. Hence the reason why you're not really selling. Hence the reason why you are not making the amount of money that you should be making. I got to come a little bit closer to the mic here. Okay. Let me get this so you can hear me better. That's the reason why you're not selling is you are too afraid. You don't want to make people uncomfortable. When I sold insurance, I made sure that if they were not uncomfortable, I knew I wasn't selling. Because the thing is, this is you are trying to make your customers your friends, which absolutely being in a friendship relationship with your customers is very needed. But you have to understand that in any process, in any sales process, you are an advisor, right? Because, like for instance, when you shop on Amazon, they don't really need you. They just go, hey, okay, I want this product and that product and that product, and then they go ahead and purchase it, right? But you need to come to the realization, right, that if they are talking to you, it means that they actually need you, which means your job is to make them uncomfortable about your current position so that they can act, right? Like imagine you've been sitting down on a chair like I'm sitting right now for 5-6 hours, right? And you're starting to feel tired and you're starting to feel pain. What do? You get up. If you're laying in bed and you've been laying in bed for 12 hours, sleeping for 12 hours, and you don't see any reason to get up because you're not uncomfortable being in bed, you do not get up. That's the reason why the hardest thing you can do in your day is getting out of bed. And the reason why, that's because it's just too comfortable, right? You need to make your prospects feel uncomfortable because if they're not uncomfortable, they're not going to buy. The reason you're not selling is you're not making people uncomfortable. Now, this is me assuming that you know how to get in front of people. If you don't know how to market, then I recommend you go check out a few of the other videos that I've done to learn how you can market to your customers. But I'm going to assume that you know how to market here, and we're going to talk about basically just the sales part of things. So one, get people uncomfortable. Hey, oh my God, Emmanuel, I don't want to make people uncomfortable. You know what? Grow a pair. Get people uncomfortable. Okay. And that's basically it. I even skipped past the fact that I was like, can I be honest with you? And basically that was just me being honest with you. All right. Now, next thing we'll talk about is the mindset to have in the sales process. Now I want to go ahead and see. Let me see if I can remove this and say, that's why no one will remember your name, Achilles of Troy. Okay. Now, not Achilles of Troy, but I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Troy. And I believe it was what's his name? It was Brad Pitt, and there was a scene where the king had invaded. There was a march that was going on. I'm trying to basically remember this. This quote was just interesting to me, and it stuck with me. Right? I'm trying to remember the scene to quote it properly. But Achilles was basically not present, and the king had sent for, to go get him to battle. Right? And he was in his tent, and one of the guys came in, told him to just cut the story short. Was like, hey, we need you, blah 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 blah. Right. So Achilles got up. I'm not going to get into details as far as what happened in between. He was on his horse, and then the guy asked him. He said, "Why aren't you afraid? Why aren't you afraid of facing an adversary? Why do you always go?" And he said, "That's why no one will remember your name." Now, someone's going to be like, correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's it. That's why no one will remember your name is because of this. The mindset to have in the sales process is this. I'm going to tell you my mindset that I have. There was a book called Go for No. Okay. And it basically details about, it's a story about, a guy that was successful and how his success was not really attributed to like anything else other than him just taking action. You see, most people are so afraid of the act of the failure as a result of taking action that they never take action. Just imagine if you're so afraid of getting in the shower because you think the shower is too hot or you're going to fall in the shower that you never end up taking a shower, right? Or you're so afraid to talk to the girl you like because you're afraid she's going to reject you. That's why you never had to have a girlfriend. You're so afraid to put out a job application for the new job because you're afraid that you're not going to make it through, so you never do it. Most people die in their own minds before actually dying in person. Most people fail in their own heads before actually failing in person. Now, what does this have to do with sales? The mindset that you need to have in sales process is you need to see it as I want you to think about this, and I'm going to summarize it to end the point. Fear of failure is evidence of failure. Okay. All right. So which means you cannot be afraid of what you fear. So what do you do? If you're so afraid of failure, if you're so afraid of rejection, what do? You need to make it the goal. You need to make it into a game. Imagine this. Imagine if you made a goal, right? And in a sales presentation, the goal, instead of saying, hey, I'm afraid they're going to tell me no, and the goal is to get them to say no. You're like, okay, think about it. Just think about this. Instead of you saying the goal is to get them to say yes, make it that the goal is to get them to say no. Here's the reason why. What you fear has power over you. Whatever you're not afraid of, you have power over. Okay? What you fear has power over you. What you're not afraid of, you have power over. Okay? Just think about that from that perspective. If you're so afraid of losing, you lose. But if you go, hey, you know what? The goal is to lose. You actually aim for it. Guess what? You feel a sense of freedom. You're just like, you give it all. You give it your best. When I sell insurance, I remember this. I remember I would ask people, how are you able to justify paying $378 a month for insurance? And you're going to go like, whoa, dude, whoa. You're about to blow yourself. No. Because if I was going to blow the sale, guess what? I would blow the sale regardless because they would not buy, right? I want to know what's the mindset behind them actually moving forward and actually making that decision to actually go and purchase. Hence the reason why I'd say, what's the reason? How are we able to justify making this? I would also, I'd make them uncomfortable. The goal was not to get them comfortable. The goal was to make them uncomfortable. So I wasn't afraid of asking tough questions. I'm like, hey, so John, just look at Mary right now. And Mary, what would you do? Just tell John, what would you do right now if you got a call tomorrow that John's not coming home? And she's like, well, I never thought about it. Okay. Well, that's true. No one ever thinks about it, right? But I'm like, hey, so Mary, John, just tell me this, right? How are you planning on leaving this world? There's no way we're going to leave this world alive, right? And John's like, yeah, man, but you know what, man? I don't think we need it right now. John, absolutely perfectly right. You don't need it. But let me ask you something, Mary. How much money do you make? Oh, I make this much. John, how much money do you make? Okay, so over a factor, you're what? You're 42 years old, so you're going to work for another 23 years. You make $50,000 a month, $50,000 a year. Over the next 23 years is roughly about $1 million. So let me ask you this question here, Mary. We're going to get $1 million in 23 years. Over the next one, who's going to give you $1 million? You're going to go to the bank. You got to go to Wells Fargo and say, "Oh my God, I need $1 million," and they'll be like, "Oh, Mary, we so love you so much. Here we go." We're going to get that. So what you're telling me is this, John, is she losing you. She's not just losing someone she loves, which, Mary, you love him, right? Please tell John you love him, because apparently he doesn't. You need to remind him. You love John, right? Okay. So now, John, this is a woman that you love, correct? I mean, if you want to sleep you don't want to sleep on the couch tonight, you're going to want to pretty much be, yeah, okay, good. So this is someone you love. Okay. Now, Mary, we just clarified right now that no one's going to give you $1 million. No one in your family is making $1 million to give you $1 million, right? Over the next 20 years, right? Or $50,000 a month. So losing you, she's losing someone she loves. And then she's also losing the fact that how much of the bills do you pay, John? You pay about 60%. She's also losing about 60% of the bills plus the additional income of $1 million that will come in over the next 23 years. She's like, and then Mary's like, yeah. And John's like, listen, John, at the end of the day, insurance, 100%. It may pay out, may not pay out if you get in a term policy. I highly recommend the whole life policy, but majority of people go for the term because they get more coverage. So let's say you decide to go for the term, right? Pay 25 years, don't die, you live a fruitful life. You're like, oh my God, I paid $20 and I never for 25 years and never use it. $100 a month. That's perfectly fine. Now let me ask you this question. Let's look in the opposite end. Okay, it's all right. Let's say something does happen to you. So it happens to you yesterday, and you put this policy in place. Which would you rather have? Would you rather have gone through life saying, hey, never had insurance, and then you end up passing away, and then she has to deal with the repercussions? Or would you rather having something in place? The worst case is it doesn't pay out, and life still continues. You guys still have fun. That's the worst case. The worst case scenario when you put this insurance in place is, think about this. The worst case is you don't use it. That's the worst case, right? The best case is you get it in place and something happens and boom, she's getting a payout. So let me ask you this question. Worst case is you don't use it, life continues, you guys end up living happily ever after. Best case is it pays out, and now guess what? She gets to continue through life without suffering. So if the worst thing that can happen to you right now is you paying a few $100 a month to ensure your family is protected, as comparable to the suffering that they would do if you decide to just go freely and just, kind of just meander through life. It was like, yeah, and then he goes, well, Man, well, let's call you back. Just let me your business card. All right, John, let me ask you this question, man. Are you God? He's like, no. Okay, good. Okay. Do you know when you're going to leave this world? He's like, no, I don't know when I'm going to leave this world. Okay. Okay. So can you guarantee me that you'll be in 10 years? Oh man, we can only pray to God that we'll be here for 10 years. So what you're telling me is you're making a decision based off of the fact that you're not even certain if you're going to be in the next 10 years or in the next whatever time. He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, insurance is not something you buy because I'm going to need it. It's something you buy that you hope is there when you actually do need it. He's like, you know what, man, let's do it. I'm like, dude, let's sign you up for $70 a month and we got 30 days. Just give me a call. Boom. We'll adjust it. How about that? Perfect. What is the blah, blah, blah? And then go ahead and close the deal. Because my goal was to get them uncomfortable, not to get them comfortable. My goal was to get them to say no. My goal was to get them to what I was so afraid of, which was, making them not like me. That's actually what I did. Hey, this guy's actually being brutally honest with me. I'm not trying to leave your house and then 2 weeks later I get a call that this man's dead. I'd rather leave the house knowing, hey, 2 weeks ago, I'm like, boom, call the insurance company right now. Hey, pay this man, pay the wife for $2 million ASAP. Ain't playing. That's how you have to have the mindset in salesperson is actually go for no, go for what it is you're afraid of. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to cover here is obviously the biggest fear, which is pretty much your fear of the word no. I think I pretty much covered it. I am way ahead of myself here. Your biggest fear is the fear of the word no. Just think about how your life would be different. All right, let's go into a magical world here. Okay, okay, we're going magic. Okay, think about this. You are someone. Your fears. You face your fears. Right. You fear. You're scared of heights, so you go skydiving. You're scared of sharks, so you go swimming with sharks. You're scared of the water, so you go scuba diving. You're scared of rejection, so you talk to 10 women a day. You're scared of having too much money, so you go ahead and work 10, 15 hours a day, position yourself, and keep learning, improving your skills to make more money. Okay? You're scared of investing in business, so you spend your life savings on it. Just imagine this. Imagine a life where you took 100% risks. You put yourself out there. Let's say you fall. Let's say you fall a few times. You put your life savings, you lose 60% of it. Let's say you go talk to 10 women or 10 men, whichever you talk to, and 9 out of 10 of them reject you. But the goal was to find one. If you talk to 10 and 9 out of 10 reject you, but you find the one that you wanted, was the mission a failure or was this still a success? Because you only need one. Let's say 7 out of the 8 out of the 10 attempts that you made to start a business were failures, right? And you lost 200 grand, but then the last 2 attempts or one of the 2 attempts that you made you 2 million. Was it a failure or was it a success? Let's say the time you went scuba diving, afraid of losing an arm and a leg, nothing ever happens to you, but now you end up becoming your new favorite sport. Was it a failure or was it a success? Let's say you're so scared of heights that now you skydive, 3 to 4 times, nothing ever happens to you and you're still perfectly fine. Now you go skydiving a bunch of times and your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever it is like, oh, wow, this is phenomenal. And then you end up having a phenomenal, fantastic life. Was it a failure or was it a success? On the other side of fear is greatness. On the other side of fear is beauty. On the other side of fear is self-fulfillment. The biggest fear in sales is the word no. If you said, listen, when I made sales calls, my goal was not to book appointments. My goal was not to say I want to book 50 appointments. My goal was to get 50 people to tell me no. And in the process of it, I had my appointments. Because guess what? Not a lot of people are going to tell you no. It's not. But because I wasn't afraid of it anymore, when I picked up the phone to call, the phone to dial, the phone wasn't heavy. That's another lesson to take there. Now, let's go ahead and cover the next one, which is why you need to cut off the dead weight in your life. Okay. And this is basically covering the habits and environment, the habits for those destined for success. Okay. Listen, If you grew up and everybody around you wore leaves, wrapped around leaves and stuff as clothes, and then what are you going to wear as clothes? You're going to wear leaves, right? If I grew up in a Spanish speaking country, and everybody spoke Spanish, it's more than likely I'm going to be speaking Spanish when I grew up, right? If I grew up in an English speaking country and everybody spoke English, it's more than likely that when I grow up, I'll be speaking English, correct? Okay. If I grew up in an environment where everybody's negative, everyone is complaining, everybody's a victim, everything that happens to them is not their fault. Their clothes, when they washed it, they washed the whites with a bunch of blues and reds, and then the whites end up getting stained, and then it's the washer's fault. Understand something, that the environment that you place yourself in will determine the type of growth that you have. A tree that is planted amongst thongs will never grow. If you are a tree planted around people who are negative, people who complain, people who don't take action, let me tell you something. I've broken up with people, I've broken up with spouses and partners just because they were having a very limited mindset. I'm like, some people just can't change. I have stopped and cut off my own friends from my life because your mindset was, I want to party all day. I want to go ahead and do all this. And I'm like, I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't engage in any of that. So my only addiction is coffee. I love coffee. Anybody who knows me knows I drink like 4 or 5 cups of coffee a day. Right? I wake up at 4 a.m. in the morning and I'm typically up to about 10, give or take, because it gives me more hours in a day to work. And mostly I'm drinking coffee. I drink blind coffee, no sugar. I know it's kind of crazy. Most people go, dude, that's psycho, man. You're drinking black coffee. I was like, well, you know what? The more coffee I drink, the more I work, the more money I make. Right? But my environment is now, it's to the point in which I was at a conference with a Grant Cardone conference, a 10X Grow Con, and I remember I paid $1,000 for the ticket. I was like, hey, let me see what it's at. And one of the guys, and met a few of the Diamond members, and most of the guys were paid about between the $3,500 to $20,000 range, right? And I was talking to the guys that paid $20,000. They're like, why'd you pay $1,000? I was like, well, because I want to get in. They're like, well, what does that accomplish for you? I'm like, well, I came here to see. They're like, well, you don't really get anything from it because it's just a giant sales pitch. I was like, okay, what do you mean? Like, you have to understand something. We paid 20 G's. So which means the person sitting to my left paid 20 G's. The person sitting to my right paid 20 G's. My business is doing 3-5 million a year. His business is doing 15 million. His business is doing 17 million. That guy over there is doing 45 million. There's 3 billionaires over there as part of the group. I'm like, he's like, you pay to be in the room. But the amount of money you pay determines the quality of people that are in the room with you. And I was like, boom, mind blown. Environment. And I was like, you know what? I want people around me that are crushing it in a specific area of their life. And that's the same way you have to look at it in your life, in your perspective, and whatever it is that you're doing is, how are you approaching life? How are the people around you approaching life? And is it in unison? Because if it's not in unison, then you don't want to be around them. You don't need to be around them because it's honestly just a waste of time. Just being truthfully honest with you, it's just a waste of time. It honestly is a waste of time. The mic is right here, so I gotta speak into the microphone. If you really legitimately want to succeed in your life, then you need to cut off people that are not in alignment with your vision, your goals for your future. Then the next thing I'm going to talk about here is the habits for those determined for success. Listen. You are a product of what you do every day. If you are somebody who wakes up and decides to shower once a week, then you are a nasty product. Just threw that joke in there. But you have to understand something. What you do every day will determine your life. Because here's the mistake most people make. Most people have this mistake of saying, you know what? My habits. I'm going to spend 2 to 3 hours a day reading a book. I'm going to spend 5 hours working out. I'm going to spend 14 and a half hours meditating. I'm going to spend 28 hours doing whatever. You have to understand something. What are habits? Habits are basically just a simple stack, something small, something minuscule that you do over a period of time. Like one of the things I do is I have something called the core fours. All right. The core fours, I'm going to break it in. So the first thing is the first hour. The first hour is spent working out. I work out an hour every day. I don't go to the gym. I'm going to make a separate video. Comment if you guys want to see the video. But I travel with resistance bands and it's like workout gear. And it's called RegFit, right? I travel with my own personal workout gear, right? So I work out an hour a day. The second thing of the core fours is basically the marketing side of things. This is where I spend 30 minutes on ads, on like my ads, either the YouTube ads, the Google ads, or the Facebook ads, right? I alternate the day. And the next thing I do is the email marketing. So this is where I do the cold emails, where I reach out to cold audiences, or the warm emails, where I reach out to people on my list and people fill out forms. So, I have about 300 to 400 emails that I send on a daily basis to people that are on the list, right? On the warm email list. And then usually I spend about 3,000 to 4,000 emails a day. Depends on the day and depends on, how I've customized the domains and the setup for that week or that 2 weeks. And then the next part of the core fours is the basically the business software management side. So I spend about 30 minutes managing the software and, the business makes sure payments, everything is good. The accounts are good. Everybody's, pretty much doing good. I look at the reports of what the team sent in. And then I spend another 30 minutes on the offer, right? How can we make it better? Do we need to improve, launch another funnel? Do we need to do something for the website? Right? And that's all in all, it's been 3 hours. Then the next thing I do is I spend 20 minutes on basically learning new software skills, right? What's the new thing that's out there? So I'm either, learning new machine learning because AI is a big thing that's coming in. So I'm like learning more about like the softwares, how to like integrate different AI tools with the ones that we have so we can optimize it. What are the different new coding languages that I, C++ and all the other coding languages that I can learn. And then next thing I do is another 20 minutes that I spend learning the sales side. So I alternate in between learning either, one-on-one sales skills from Grant Cardone or internet sales skills on, sales funnels from either Russell Brunson, Gustin Sun, or all the other internet marketers that are out there. And then after that, I spend 30 minutes making this video that you're watching right now. And I do this every day, right? I make sure to record one video a day, at least, or edit one video a day of me, speaking in this way because it's all practice. This is all me practicing. So you have to understand, so it's why I call it the core four. So I do this 4 hours before I get in the shower. So which means, right now I got to go shower, right? So 4 hours before I go ahead and start my day, I've already gotten this done because I make sure that I've been productive for the first part of my morning, the first part of my day before I go ahead and start my day, because now I have done the hardest and the toughest things I can do in my day. If I've already worked on my body and worked on my mind and worked on my business for 4 hours in the morning, and then obviously, get in the office or I go flying or whatever it is, and I have to put in another, 8 to 12 hours, that's perfectly fine with me because to me, my body's already conditioned. And majority of people are going to go, well, aren't you kind of exerting a toll on yourself or working yourself too much? You have to understand something is people who work hard, work hard. People who don't work hard will not work hard, right? You are a byproduct of your habits. Your habits create your identity. Being the fact that I'm somebody who will put in extra work and wake up early and work out for 4 hours every day, I am able to take on more work than majority of people out there just based on the fact that I've already been conditioning myself for it, right? Versus if I never did the core fours and you're like, oh man, I got to go work out. I got to go do this. There is no sequence. There's no connection. There's no brain pattern. There's nothing in there that's been formulated. So it's kind of very hard to if I was somebody who slept, 12, 13 hours a day, it's very hard to adapt to someone that's going to, I got to work 12 hours a day. Why? Why do I have to do that? No, Jesus. But being the fact that I'm already somebody who works at the bare minimum, 10 hours every day at a bare minimum. Because I believe if you're working less than 10 hours a day, what are you really doing? What are you really doing? You're not really working to your full potential. You're just wasting your time. Why even work? All right. What are you accomplishing doing 40 hours a week? That's my whole mindset. What is 40 hours a week? If you're not putting in the bare minimum 60 to 70 hours a week, then what are you really doing? If you're not working, then be learning. You're like, well, man, I have to spend time with my family. You have to understand something. Yeah, spend time with your family, but if your zip code and your family is paying in a zip code where, the neighborhood is not safe, people aren't really, the schools aren't good, then you owe it to them to go be your best self so you can move them to a better neighborhood. That's just pretty much it. Okay, so let's recap. The first thing, the reason you're not selling is 1, you're not willing to make people uncomfortable. Go out there and make people uncomfortable. 2 is you have to pretty much, what's your mindset? Face your fears. Face your fears. I believe I skipped something somewhere. All right, go. All right. And the next thing we're going to talk about is, are you ready to face your fears? Are you ready? Ask yourself this. Am I ready to go out there and dominate? Will they remember my name? All right. Go face your fears. And then the next thing we'll look at is, who are you cutting off and what habits are you taking on? You got to cut somebody off, man. Cut someone off from your life. Hey, you might even have to say, hey, you know what? Your girlfriend or boyfriend, like, hey, listen, your mindset's too negative. I just, for the next phase of my life, it just will not work out. Cut them off. Okay? And then the next thing here is pretty much, I guess, thanks for watching. Listen, guys, if it's your first time finding me, just do me a favor, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. You're going to get more content like this. And obviously, I'm going to talk about my company because obviously I'm always going to be promoting, same way you should be promoting. But that's pretty much what I got for you guys. And for that, I say,